Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Indie Zone. My name is Kathy. I'm recording this on July 4th, 2025. This is Independence Day in the United States, where Americans are celebrating this country's birth. In creating this new government, the framers of the Constitution put together a framework as to how the new union, comprised of the 13 original colonies, would operate. The 13 original colonies, however, being presented with the Constitution, having battled and waged perhaps one of the greatest Davy and Goliath stories ever in taking on the well-organized elite armed forces of the nation of England, refused to sign off and thereby ratify the Constitution without guarantees that there would be some protections against another kingdom being established. Through additional negotiations, there were 10 amendments to the Constitution that were then presented to the 13 colonies, and that's what got the Constitution ratified and officially started the new union that we are celebrating today. Before any of the other 9 amendments comes the first, and one would speculate that the order of the amendments came perhaps according to the importance, what was important to the framers. First Amendment appears before all others. An important component to the First Amendment was the press being able to report, for example, on criminal proceedings, so that the public who might not be able to travel from afar to where a criminal proceeding was occurring might be able to learn about it through a free press. And the framers also felt that criminal proceedings should not happen behind closed doors as we see in other nations across the world. Any person should be able to walk into any courtroom in the United States and watch pre-trial or a trial to ensure that the system is running the way it should be and that there's no abuse of authority by law enforcement, by the judiciary. And this operates as a checks and balances system. One of the greatest concerns that I have had about this case, that I have expressed many, many times, both in the podcast, which now numbers over 750 episodes, where I've looked at every document on the case summary page, where I've looked at every document that has been released to the public. We've looked at every notation on the case summary page, which lists the many documents and proceedings that have occurred in a closed manner, closed to the public. And I've voiced my concern about the precedent that this case is setting upon our very precious First Amendment rights, including one presentation a few months back called Public Trial, Secret Trial. One of the cornerstones of why things have operated in secret is because of the non-dissemination order that was first recommended to the first judicial officer who presided over this case at the very beginning, Judge Megan E. Marshall, It was drafted by defense counsel Ann C. Taylor, agreed to by Ms. Taylor and Mr. Thompson, and the first version of the non-dissemination order went into effect. The very beginning of the case, non-dissemination order became effective approximately 4 days later. Gag order. This is why we haven't seen any interviews with members of law enforcement or defense counsel or the counsel for the state or any experts that have been retained by either side. In this case, they have been bound by this non-dissemination order. The third version of it is the operative order that still is in effect today. And it was signed back in June of 2023. And we even had the press go to the Idaho Supreme Court to get this non-dissemination order set aside. They were unsuccessful in that quest. Two parties who have never taken a step in this entire case to set aside that non-dissemination order are the state of Idaho and the defense. And a couple of days ago on July 2nd, 2025, if you watched the live proceedings, you saw Mr. Kohberger in open court plead guilty to all charges that have been brought against him by indictment. And if you've read the docket, you've seen that that plea agreement that he entered into with the state of Idaho, and all the terms of which were discussed in open court by Judge Stephen J. Hippler on the 2nd of July, in that he would plead guilty, he would waive all of his appellate rights. He's basically going to spend the rest of his life in prison with no possibility to appeal. That's what that plea agreement says. Towards the end of the hearing, Judge Hippler brought up the non-dissemination order. It appeared that, in my opinion, he was looking to set that aside and turned to the prosecution. Mr. Thompson objected to the non-dissemination order being set aside, as did Ms. Taylor, the two people personally responsible for the first non-dissemination order going into effect. And my question today on Independence Day is why? For what purpose is that gag order still in effect if Mr. Kohberger pled guilty and has waived all rights to appeal? If you have any thoughts or any comments, please leave them here. All your opinions are greatly appreciated as we give pursuant to the First Amendment to the United States Constitution. This is Kathy. Happy Independence Day to all in the United States. Thanks for joining us today.